in our files. But when these files were declassified 5 years later, well, it caught them in more than one lie. Now, before I show you those documents, there's one really important aspect of this case, and it's really odd. So, Professor John G. Trump, who worked at MIT, was the person chosen to review all of Tesla's documents. And in less than 3 days after Nikola Tesla's property was confiscated by the FBI and handed over to the Office of Alien Custodian, John G. Trump announced to the world that no, there was nothing significant in these files and that ultimately it did not contain any plans of anything of significant. In fact, I quote, Tesla's thoughts and efforts during at least the last 15 years were primarily of speculative, philosophical, and somewhat promotional character, often concerned with the production and wireless transmission of power, but did not include new, sound, workable principles or methods for realizing such results. Yet when you look at this declassified document to the director of the FBI, it specifically states that we believe that certain of Tesla's papers may contain basic principles which would be of considerable value to certain ongoing research within the DoD, the Department of Defense. It would be truly helpful to have access to his papers. But besides that, the declassified documents from the FBI literally discuss that although Tesla wrote in English, his penmanship was small, blurred, and so difficult to translate as a foreign language. And in these same documents, in fact, multiple documents state that the FBI did have microfilm. So essentially, they took photos, copies of every single one of Tesla's documents. So when they stated for decades that, no, we don't have Tesla's paperwork, no. Okay, yeah, they didn't have his paperwork, but they had copies of it. So they deliberately manipulated their words in order to convince those that were asking that, no, we don't have anything on him, which was a direct omission of truth, which is interesting. I mean, the FBI, they're officers of the court. And in court, if you omit the truth, well, that's a perjury. That's a felony. But to make everything even more suspicious, out of more than 300 documents that were released by the FBI, a significant amount of them have overwhelming redactions on these papers to the point you can't even read them. And although most of the papers are just blank and you could read them on your own, an unbelievable amount of them have significant redactions. Look at these Sharpie outs. You can't even read this stuff. Like, what does it say, and why is it being left out 73 years later after his death? But if you want another indicator of dishonest behavior on behalf of the FBI, the very last document they have on Nikola Tesla before he died was back in September of 1940, which was a memo written to the director of the FBI, J. Edgar Hoover, suggesting that they put 24/7 or constant surveillance on Nikola Tesla without his knowing in order to prevent him from being kidnapped by the enemy and essentially being tortured for information involving his technologies and inventions. And then after this, there's not a single document for 2.5 years later until his death in 1940. So despite the fact that the FBI has dozens and dozens of correspondence and documentation related to Nikola Tesla before his death, the FBI director gets a suggestion that he put on surveillance on Tesla, and there's nothing after that. Not a yes that set up the surveillance, not a no, not a maybe. Nothing. Do they really expect us to believe that? Does that make any sense? That it wouldn't even warrant a reply whatsoever? Do you believe that? I don't. So here's the part about the CIA. So you might remember 2 days before President Obama left office in January of 2017, he declassified nearly 13 million documents from the CIA, which made headlines all around the world because they discussed various things such as psychic abilities, UFOs, even CIA torture practices on detainees and terrorists. But one thing that was just not mentioned, and I have not seen anything online, internet forums, YouTube, that discussed the fact that Nikola Tesla is also contained in those files. I took it upon myself to literally just type in, and anyone can do this, by the way. Go to CIA.gov, click on the Freedom of Information Act, and type in Nikola Tesla, which is what I did. And I was shocked to see that, yeah, they have several documents on him. Now, besides the fact that there are redactions, blacked out marks, or even more pretty-looking white-out marks, as you can see here, these documents indicate that they had a secret investigation to Nikola Tesla's sites overseas. They had inventories, they took names, and who knows what else they left out. But there's clearly missing documents here as well. Where's the documents leading up to this investigation? Where's the documents at the end of the investigation? But here's the one thing that sticks out. So many people were wondering why it took the government 9 years to release Tesla's property to his family. Well, these documents from the CIA indicate that they concluded their investigation in 1952, which just so happens to be the very same year that Nikola Tesla's property was handed back over to his family in Belgrade. Do you really think that that's just a coincidence? So in other words,